What happens after an STS operation often matters more than the operation itself. The debrief, where lessons transform into life-saving procedures. Our panel reveals how the industry's most successful operators turned isolated incidents into collective wisdom. From Singapore to South America, discover how sharing failures openly has created a global safety network that's redefining maritime excellence.
The debrief for me is the most important thing, because that's where you're learning your lessons, and that's where you can transfer into the joint plan of operation to actually improve the efficiency, the safety, and so on and so forth.
I agree.
Just curious, with that, it's an excellent point about the debrief. Is the debrief an identified step in the JPO? Like the last step of the JPO is, do a debrief? Because it's a great way to capture. It's a great idea, but is there a procedural step to do that?
It's a very, if I take the first operation on day one and then go forward 12 months, that operation on day one compared to the operation 12 months later is completely different, because what we've learned and what we've been able to adapt. So there is an element of a learning curve in there. So you actually do, in your debrief procedures, you'll start off with a template of some description, which will cover the various scenarios that you're going to come across. Yeah. But as you go through, you'll start adding, it becomes a working live document. You start adding things in there as you're learning, but especially in open water, because there's so many factors that we see, especially with regards to operability, because it's not predictable. So we actually start adding those things into the document as it goes on. So it becomes a working document that is then transferred. Before we even start this up, what did we learn and not? So we actually go through the debrief of the last operation before we begin the next operation and go through the briefing for that operation.
It's in our flow again.
OCIMF and TMSA, even VIQ7 had introduced the master's feedback report. So after each STS operation, according to VIQ7, the STS records consisted of the risk assessment, checklist, certificates of vendors and hoses, plus the master's feedback report. So inside our database, we have more than 17,000 feedbacks, and asking the masters what went wrong, if there's something went wrong. But I think since the new guideline and the human element has been introduced, we're going to add another question: what went right? Not also only what went wrong. We will add another line. So, and that's
also a very good point, actually.
I liked what you said a lot.
Yeah. If we actually take the process itself, again, I'm only referring to what we do, is every 3 months, all the three organisations, we sit together and we go through to see what we've implemented, what we've not implemented, and what we do is we extract out parts that we feel would be global, because everything we do is very site-specific, but are there some lessons we're learning that we can actually implement on other operations? But you have to have that every 3-month communication to understand it.
We do that. We have our quarterly lightering offshore team meeting.
I'm really pleased to see that, because organisations that we work with, they all seem to think this is what we should be doing, and we should be reviewing this every 3 months.
All service providers around the globe, they have 3 forums that they meet on an annual basis.
And that's, Alex makes a great point about the sharing outside your organization. Andrew, you're talking about sharing within your organization and across your organization. But the real benefit for the industry comes is when those learnings, positive and negative, what went well, but also what could go better next time, when those are shared across the sector. Yeah. And as Alex touched on, a number of regional STS organizations do a great job of that. The ITOL and the Americas, SNI and ICMAL in Southeast Asia. Similar organization or similar activity takes place in Europe and the Med,
and we've been starting it up in Brazil and South America now as well. There's an organization starting up.
OCIMF, OCIMF hosted a global sharing forum last year, bringing together, because one of the things in preparation or as part of the revision process, OCIMF was taking feedback from these regional STS service provider forums. Had great feedback. One of the realizations that we had was that the forums were not talking to each other in a structured manner. So we saw the opportunity to get all those forums, to the regional forums together. In November last year, we hosted it's almost 1 year now, a discussion and a sharing of those lessons learned, what went well, what could go better next time. We look to do that again next year. We tested with the organizations, and the feedback was that it was better to wait a few months, allow some bedding in time after the release of the STS guide, because of course, unavoidably, most of the discussion will be around what have we seen, now we put the STS guide into practice. So the feedback that we got was instead of having it again in November here, this year, to wait a few months and then have it later next year after the organizations have and the vessel operators have had some runtime with it and some time to soak in, again, what went well with the STS guide, what could go better next time, and give us feedback as well, in addition to the normal sharing of lessons learned from the industry.